Some have compared the acquittal of George Zimmerman to O.J. Simpson's not guilty verdict in terms of the intensity of the reaction and the polarization that followed. Kim Goldman's brother, Ron, was brutally murdered, along with O.J. Simpson's ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson. Kim had to sit through every painful, agonizing moment of the high-profile O.J. Simpson murder trial, only at the end of it to hear the jury's highly controversial decision, not guilty for O.J. Simpson.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony, upon Ronald Lyle Goldman, a human being.
Kim's brother's death changed her life. She is now a victims' rights advocate. And I want to say our very special guest tonight, Kim Goldman, whose brother was so viciously murdered. There you are crying, and as your dad shakes his head over the not guilty verdict all those years ago. Thanks for joining me tonight. You and Trayvon Martin's parents share something. You both heard a verdict that you found outrageous and reprehensible, even incomprehensible. What advice would you give to the Martins as they sit in anguish tonight over how to deal with a verdict that feels like a betrayal?
You know, it's hard because all everybody wants to do is put their collective arms around them and give them a hug and tell them that they love them and that they care about them and that Trayvon's life ended far too soon, which is what we all are saying. When they're ready and when they've given themselves some time to get some peace and some comfort in that, then they move forward and they do what they need to do to change laws, if that's what they feel is important to them, to affect a different outcome for those of us that will follow in their footsteps. I mean, that's what you do sometimes in the face of adversity, is you go on to do amazing things in the name and the honor of the one that has passed away.
As you have, it's almost like a daily reprieve from the agony. You do something to make the world a better place, and that relieves the suffering for one day. Now, in both O.J. Simpson and the Zimmerman murder trials, race became a huge issue. The Simpsons defense team, as we all remember, took aim at Detective Mark Furman's alleged racism, pointing to the fact that he had used the N-word, although he claimed that it was in character for a screenplay. In George Zimmerman's case, Trayvon's friend Rachel Jeantel said that slur openly in front of the jury. Let's listen.
The is behind me.
Okay, he used the N-word again and said, is behind me?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you say anything to him at that time?
I told him, you better run.
I know this is a difficult question, Kim, but why has race, and particularly the N-word, why did it come up at both trials?
I think people have a hard time healing sometimes, and I think that morality and legality don't always mesh, and we are now sitting here after the fact very emotional over Trayvon's killer not being held accountable, and the same for my brother's case. But when you look at the facts and evidence, neither race played a part, in my opinion, in either of these cases. I don't believe that George Zimmerman acted with malice and intent to kill the same way that the killer did in my brother's case. I mean, there was hundreds of pieces of evidence to show the emotion behind the murder of my brother and Nicole. I don't see that as the same here. I'm not diminishing it. Please don't hear me say that. I just think that we have a hard time understanding that morality does not play a part when it comes to deliberating trials. And it's hard for us as emotional people to understand that concept.
All these many years later, almost a couple of decades later, have race relations gotten better in this country, in your opinion, or are they the same, or are they worse?
You know, we're still talking about it, and we're still thinking that race plays a part in everything we do. And I would like to broaden the scope a little bit and talk about things on a bigger level, which is about our lack of humanity and our lack of love and compassion for each other. Our intolerance towards one another is at an all-time high. The internet is a playground to breed hate and vilify people for having a difference of opinion, whether it be who you vote for, who you pray to, who you love, what kind of food you eat. I mean, we are off the charts in the terms of how we treat each other in this country, and that's where we need to start looking at in terms of how we treat each other and if we're going to get justice in the courtroom.
I couldn't agree with you more. I really hope this dialogue and this tragedy brings us together and doesn't pull everyone further apart. I mean, it's almost like
it's going
we need...
to.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it's going to if we don't channel our energy in a place where it's effective. Chanting and protesting in the streets, not a great use of our energy. Go to your legislator's office. Go to your lobbyists. Know who's being, elected into the district attorney's office and who the judges are, who your state's attorney is, who your city council, your school board, for God's sakes. I mean, be an educated participant in the process, and your voice can be heard. But shouting at the rooftops and looting your own neighborhoods is not an effective use of our energy and not going to move the movement forward.
Yeah, and thank you so much for joining us. It's important to point out that the vast majority of demonstrators have been peaceful. It's been a relative handful that have gone over the top. But I really appreciate your insight. I hope you join us again. I love your voice and what you have to say and how you've turned your agony into a force for good. Thank you, Kim Goldman,
Thanks,
sister of murder victim Ron